Imagine a girl from Newark, New Jersey, stepping into the world's brightest spotlight and not just surviving, but utterly dominating it. That's Whitney Houston's origin story. She wasn't just a singer, she was a global phenomenon, an artist whose mere presence shattered stereotypes. With over 200 million records sold, she became one of the world's best-selling artists. But what did that mean, really? It meant more than platinum records. It meant being named by Premiere as one of Hollywood's 100 most powerful people performing at the White House for Nelson Mandela and redefining what was possible for a Black woman in entertainment. When you watched her, you saw living proof that the so-called glass ceiling could be cracked sometimes with a single perfect note. Now, you might be wondering, was it just talent or something more? Let's dig deeper. Let me tell you a story not just of a star, but a symbol. Whitney wasn't controversial by scandal. She was controversial by existence. In a world armed with psychological warfare and centuries-old stereotypes, she stood as a living rebuke. Some called it her treasury of melanin. In scientific terms, melanin is a pigment that colors our skin and hair, but in the cultural context, it's much more a symbol of resilience and creative force. Think of the pineal gland, the so-called third eye, often linked to intuition and higher consciousness. Whitney embodied this melanin magic, transforming light, sound, and energy into pure, electrifying performance. Her blackness wasn't a limitation, it was a superpower. And for those watching, especially among the poor and oppressed worldwide, her very presence on stage was an act of liberation. Now, ask yourself, what happens when a symbol like Whitney rises too high? You know that soaring chorus, "The greatest love of all is happening to me." Whitney's signature hit wasn't just another pop ballad. No, it was a lesson in self-love, a blueprint for survival in a world that tried to take her dignity. A lyric like, "No matter what they take from me, they can't take away my dignity," hits harder when you realize how much the world tried to strip from her. In psychological terms, that's called resilience, the ability to withstand and recover from adversity. So, when Whitney sang, millions heard a call to find worth within themselves, despite systematic obstacles. It wasn't just a song, it was a weapon against oppression and self-doubt. Now you might ask, could a single song really shake the foundations of power? In Whitney's hands, it absolutely could. Let's not shy away from the big question. Why was Whitney Houston so dangerous to the ruling class? Think about it when a Black woman becomes both a global symbol and a unifying force. She threatens entrenched systems built on division. There's a chilling phrase from U.S. policy, "Prevent the rise of a Black Messiah." That's not paranoia, that's history. The concept of psychological operations psyops means shaping public reality, often through the media. Whitney didn't just transcend race and class. She exposed the lie that only certain people could tap into greatness. And that's why, in certain circles, her rise was viewed as a threat, not a triumph. Now, are we wandering into conspiracy? Or are we seeing evidence of a pattern one will unpack further? Picture this. It's Grammy Week 2012. Los Angeles is crawling with security, and Whitney, the industry's crown jewel, is supposedly left to wander the Beverly Hilton, alone and disheveled. Sounds off, right? Standard protocol would dictate layers of surveillance, risk assessment, and what security experts call protective details. But reports claimed she was aimless, inebriated, vulnerable. Now you might be thinking, wasn't anyone watching out for her? The reality is, in a high-profile environment, nothing happens by chance. Every minute is tracked. So if Whitney was left without protection, it wasn't oversight, it was orchestration. Who stood to benefit? Insurance payouts, legacy sales, and a sanitized narrative. The setup was more than individual, it was systemic. That's the heartbreak and the outrage. Let's zoom in on Clive Davis, a titan of the music industry shaped by and for privilege. He wasn't just a record exec, he was an architect of cultural taste. The term oligarchy comes to mind, a structure where a few control the many. Davis, backed by CBS and its deep CIA connections, wielded influence not just over music but over public perception. Psychological operation, or PSYOP, isn't just the stuff of spy movies. It's real, with media and music as its tools. Remember, CBS had agents trained as journalists embedded in the newsrooms. When Davis discovered one 9-year-old Whitney, he molded her career, but when her struggles no longer served the corporate narrative, he stepped back. The contrast? Adele loses her voice, and the industry rallies. Whitney? She's left to fend for herself. See the double standard? It's privilege, plain and simple. So what's the takeaway from Whitney Houston's story? It's not just a tale of stardom, but a blueprint for how power protects its own and punishes those who threaten the status quo. In music, the term paradigm shift means not just a new sound, but a new way of seeing the world. Whitney's life forced that shift. Her voice, her presence demanded a reconsideration of who gets to lead, who gets to inspire. But that kind of power comes at a cost. The forces arrayed against her, corporate, governmental, societal, weren't just obstacles, they were calculated. Yet, her legacy endures. Every time a voice rises above limitation, every time someone finds the greatest love within themselves, Whitney's revolution continues. And that, my friends, is the story of a Black diva who changed the world and what it cost her to do it.